Hello, welcome to Dissident Canada. My name is Tyler. This week, Parliament was back in session after taking way too long of a break and basically getting nothing done since well before the beginning of the year. Go Parliament. Great team. But they still pull a pull. They still have been pulling checks, wasting money, and if you go check any of your trusted sources, corruption off the charts. Regardless of party, you can find corruption. Canada is a state of corruption. As I have said before, I am very much of the opinion that Canada is a consortium of cartels that pretends to be a country. In other words, it's three raccoons in a trench coat pretending to be a human. That is what Canada is at this point. Um, and I kind of thought I'd go over some of the reasons why. That I'm not going to say no matter who you vote for, but when you are voting party wise, whether respective of party, you're likely going to get some form of corruption. The question is, what type of corruption? Now, obviously, if you have any knowledge of history, you understand that in governance structures, there appears to be, throughout history, corruption no matter the system. It's always about percentages and who's corrupt and who's benefiting from the corruption. If you go back all the way to the Romans, you can see the corruption benefiting what you could call the aristocracy, even though they don't call themselves the aristocracy. They are the senators. But because to be of that rank, you had to be very, very wealthy, and you had to. The financial system and financial not literacy, understanding was not robust enough to understand that wealth could be created, not stolen. So you have problems. But again, corruption goes all the way back. In Canada, part of the problem is you've got it is expensive to run a campaign. You need money, you need political backing, you need attention. All of that costs. Now, the political backing can really cost because you're going to have to throw some people some bones. But also, if, in the party system, you have to make friends. And to make friends, you have to make friends of the friends' friends, who are almost guaranteed to be either some form of lobbyist on behalf of some cartel or you're getting involved in some cartel. The Conservatives, very notably, are buddy-buddy with the dairy cartel. Fairly large cartel, even though it's just dairy. Like, you don't think it's that big, and it's pretty big. And it's why you're going to see, like, if we get an election anytime soon, and somehow Pierre is able to pull off a win, it will be despite himself, not because of himself. There will be no changes on rules with supply management for the dairy cartel whatsoever. Okay? That's a bone thrown to them, even though it's extremely popular to remove it. So you've got like this problem where just inherently politics is going to attract certain personalities that are not who you want at all, ever near politics, you're going to get psychopaths, you're going to get sociopaths, you're going to get all manner of narcissists. You'll get, you know, every defective personality, pathological personality you can think of in politics, because it will give them access to power and money and to power brokers, which will allow them to acquire more money and more power. So, like, that's an inherent problem. But like with the way specifically Canada's system is built, it's a parliamentary system that locks out small parties from gaining prominence due to the fact that it's extremely difficult for a small party to get popular enough to the point where they have a viable path to victory, or to become a viable proportion of the voting electorate to, you know, be able to block or support certain bills. So it's really hard for, say, you know, a new party to come about and in a relatively short time, without doing all the groundwork, pop out of nowhere and become prime minister, because you have to win a certain number of seats, which is extremely cost prohibitive, because you have to not only run a national campaign, but you have to run, you know, and win, you know, 100 and what is it, 71 individual campaigns on top of a national federal campaign. It's quite difficult. Whereas if you compare it to the United States, you don't have to win the House or the Senate to be elected president of the United States. You just have to win the election. So you can be, you know, a Bobby Kennedy and run as a third party and have a relatively viable chance. And it's, but even in America, it's extremely hard, because you have to get so many signatures to be on the ballot, and it's a whole bunch of corruption there. But in general, it's the system itself is designed to keep people, or keep dissidents out. Like, if you look at how the parties are structured, all right, they have clauses where if you don't vote the way the party wants you to, you're gone. You're out. You've got no support. And that holds people by their collar very well, to keep them going along, keeping the peace, so that they maybe one day have the chance to get enough friends in the party to become prime minister. It's not like, hey, who are we going to put forth to be prime minister? Who's the best guy who can win? Who do we think we can, you know, win with? No, that's not how things work. You've got turns. You've got people who have been there a while, who have the friends that need to be, you know, pushed forward, not just, hey, this guy came here, he's speaking a good speak, he's got a good following, he's very well in front of the camera. Well, we can't have him because it's, you know, dipshit number 3's turn. And you can see that in the, I won't say the previous or the last Conservative Party party leader election, but in previous ones, you can see that, where there's like, oh, this is a viable candidate. This candidate could win. Oh, who did we get instead? Oh, Andrew Scheer or Aaron O'Toole. What? Yeah, you can see that. Or like, they, and because of the party apparatus, all right, it's you know, it's a club, and the dissidents aren't going to be in it, and the representative voices of the people are definitely going to be in it, because again, to win an election, you need money, and you have to have the backing of certain factions. I mean, you don't really need the backing of factions, you really just need to get people to vote. But with the backing of certain factions, it makes it easier to get those votes. So that just, pushes out any type of, say, insurgency that you could want to have inside of, say, the Liberal Party, and make it actually, say, left leaning populist, or an insurgency you would want to have in, say, the Conservative Party of Canada, and make them more right leaning populist, or just generally right leaning in general, instead of just, we'll say all the right wing stuff that's been said for 40 or 50 years, and then we'll vote like liberals. Like, you just. It's not realistically going to happen. And, on the topic, if I back up, of making it for small parties very, very difficult for them to win, the other thing is you have to have this separation of party status between federal, provincial parties, which that really screws you, because you could, start a provincial party, right? Have a grassroots campaign, do very well, and grow a campaign over, or grow a party over, 2 or 3 election cycles, and you start to win, a lot. You start to win elections, and you eventually, say, win the premiership. If you could then grow that party to absorb into another province. So, an easy one is you could probably start, a right-wing populist party in, say, Alberta, win there, and you could expand to BC and Saskatchewan. BC would probably be the easiest one to win in all likelihood, because of the demographics of BC. Right-wing populism is extremely, extremely popular. You can see that with, what is that the Conservative Party in BC that just lost last year? I forget the name of the party. They had like, I think, half a dozen to a dozen good populist voices in the party that, like, as the election was called, they were kicked out because they were populist and didn't toe the party line on certain things, but were extremely popular in that province. And had they had those people and they've been in positions of power, they would have won and not just lost. Now, obviously, there's some shenanigans that went on with the BC election, but they would have been too big to rig. Like, you always also have to factor in that fact that there's no election in the Western world that is above the board 100%. There's always something that you can look at and be like, oh, that's fishy as hell. We need to deal with that. But you can overwhelm that with, again, more populist voices. You have to be able to reach out and turn low propensity voters into high propensity voters. This is the problem that the Republican Party is going to face in the midterms and the next the next presidential election. Is MAGA is made up of mostly low propensity voters at this point, and they may self-identify as Republican, even though they think more, well, we're really just Trumplicans. So when Trump's not on the ticket and they don't like generic Republican, they won't vote for that. Like, there are quite a few like say maybe 10 to 30% of MAGA that will vote for Donald Trump and then vote, you know, down ballot Democrat. It is it's not it's not nobody. It is a lot of people. I mean, you know, you add that with Trump pissing people off, with all the war whoring he's doing and simping for Bibi Netanyahu, you've got some serious problems. But if I get back to Canada, like you, without a party that has someone who's strategically thinking and understands that you have to win, you have to have small victories first that you compile upon. And I think this is the biggest problem I have with the PPC. They do not have anybody in their command team that seems to understand that to win all the marbles, you have to be able to win a marble first. You have to walk into one of these populist voting ridings in Canada and win, and then win another one, and win another one, and win another one. And then you can start to flip, you know, more conservative and more liberal or NDP voting strongholds to your side. You can absolutely do it. But instead they don't focus and you've got these problems. Like I'm sure Maxime Bernier and the rest of the PPC want to win. They are just going about it in the wrong way. Now, they may eventually win with their strategy, but it's going to take them much longer because they continue to not present themselves as a viable option or, you know, answer the question of you cannot win 170 odd seats in parliament. What does your voice do? They do not have the best answer. Now, I've seen people answer it that are with the PPC, and it's a very good answer, but it's not coming from the top, so they have some serious issues there. I mean, there's other small federal parties as well that also do it. Like there's that, is it Christian Heritage? To me, that's a non-serious party because they don't look at the demographics of Canada and be like, hey, we could actually win on if we gathered, you know, these types of people. They just like, well, we think we need to return to Christianity, therefore we'll run as Christians and we'll. And it's like, look at how secular Canada is. Now, there may be a shift coming. It may or may not happen. Who knows? But, like, I don't think they really have a chance in hell of winning. Because everything I've seen from them is just, they they don't know how to market themselves. They don't know how to win. It's, if you like them, that's fine. I'm just saying they don't seem to know exactly their path forward and how they could do this. I totally think someone like a PPC could win, absolutely win. They'd have to completely make a lot of changes and stop doing a lot of things that I've mentioned many times before in the lead up to the election. But yeah, like the entire system is meant to keep dissident voices out. And you don't have right now in Canada someone saying looking at how the AFD started to get popular, or Marie Le Pen's party as well also, I believe, did this. Like they started small, absolutely, but they started racking up small wins and built upon it. You're not really seeing that. You're not really seeing a lot of people try to do that But, that's just my opinion. And the other thing that you're going to have issues with is that Elections Canada is, and you have other problems, but Elections Canada is so thoroughly infiltrated by partisan hacks at this point. You're going to be kept out of very important things, such as the leaders debate. It's going to be difficult for your candidates to meet the minimum threshold of signatures because they will scrutiny the ever living hell out of you, but nobody really else. They will stack the rules against you for basically everything, as we have seen. And the other problem, if there is something fishy and you do find evidence of it, and you attempt to bring that forth to a judge, you will have judicial bias out the ass in this country. Like, it's extremely difficult to win. You have to be able to somehow capture a large and vocal, extremely vocal audience of Canadians, and then be able to capture the eye of, I would say, prominent Americans, that you can then use them as a, I guess I would say, an attack vector. That's just the way I'm thinking at the moment. You use them as a vector to then apply more pressure to Canada. Very much like what is happening with the ostrich farm. It worked in the past. It appears not to be working so well right now. I haven't gotten an update. They garnered the eye of vocal Canadians, who then garnered the eye of prominent Americans, who then caught the eye of Secretary Kennedy, no less, and is now everybody is applying pressure. That wasn't an intended strategy, I don't think, but it seems to be working relatively well, which that's great. Like, it's a great and effective strategy. I would love to see it implemented on the political side, but we're not really seeing that, which is, again, makes it extremely hard for a principled person to end up in Parliament so that you can start dealing with the corruption that is very blatant nowadays. Like, I don't even know why they even try to hide it. It's just so out in the open now. It's hilarious. Like, there was times where the corruption was, it was, hey, a friend of a friend of a friend is getting this, is getting the kickback, and the kickback is then being disseminated through all the friends, and it's very hush hush, and it's very well money laundered. Now it's just like, oh, hey, the minister owns a large share of this company. It's like, what the hell? And it's all publicly disclosed too. That's the crazy part. It's not that, hey, we have ministers that are corrupt as hell. It's the fact that they've publicly disclosed the corruption. And you can go through, official government documents where they release their finances to a certain degree, and you go, wait a minute, you have a, 10 to 30% stake in this company that is getting billions of dollars from the government, and your wife and sister-in-law work for the company? What the hell? Like, and it's all publicly there. It's like, it's offensively out in the open once you start looking for it. It's not the way it used to be done, where it was, you have proxies in the way. No. It's just blatant corruption. It's insane. I don't know what I prefer, the hidden corruption or the blatant corruption. At this point, I don't know what's better. Obviously, no corruption, but like, let's be real, we're not getting there. The question is, can you do corruption the way Putin does it, where it benefits the state and the people more often than not? That's the real question. Can you get to that point? Who knows? Anyways, that'll be the video for today. See you next week. Till then, have a good weekend.